Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you here tonight to the May 8th, 2018 regular meeting of the Hsdsb School Board. Melissa, will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Kathleen Aberzizi?
Here.
Jason Cipriano?
Here.
Caitlin Parnell? Here. James Sweeney?
Here.
Karen Yusenka?
Here.
And Pinkerton Academy Student Liaison, Sophie Chericello?
Here.
And also seated at the board table next to me is Assistant Superintendent Dr. Roxanne Wilson.
Thank you. Will you all please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we do the approval of minutes, I'd like to make note that today is Teachers' Day in the United States. So I'd like to just talk about that briefly and thank our teachers. In 1953, an Arkansas teacher wrote to Eleanor Roosevelt about the need to recognize and honor America's teachers. Mrs. Roosevelt persuaded Congress to proclaim a day in May as National Teachers' Day. It is celebrated on Tuesday of National Teacher Appreciation Week in the first full week of May each year. So that's today. We landed right on it. Then in 1994, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, inaugurated World Teachers' Day to focus attention on the contributions and achievements of teachers and to highlight teachers' concerns and priorities regarding education. October 5th was selected as the date to internationally celebrate teachers because on that date in 1965, a special intergovernmental conference adopted the UNESCO recommendations concerning the status of teachers. For the first time ever, this recommendation gave teachers throughout the world an instrument that defines their responsibilities and asserts their rights. In adopting the recommendation, governments unanimously worldwide recognized the importance for society to have competent, qualified, and motivated teachers. UNESCO believed that education, culture, and communication are the means to building a peaceful world. Today in Hsdsb, we celebrate our teachers, our specialists, and all our staff. The board is proud to be associated with a select group of individuals who on a daily basis help shape the future of our children. Good teaching, the type we see in our schools in Hsdsb Central and Hsdsb Middle and Pinkerton Academy, is hard work and takes a person with special characteristics to complete the job. Great teaching, of which there is also plenty in Hsdsb, is incredibly difficult. Good teaching is intellectually and emotionally demanding. Great teaching is these and much more. Intellectual demands can be overwhelming. Added new curriculums, new technology to learn, initial training, and professional development. In emotional situations, good teachers respond with care and concern. Great teachers become effective advocates for the family, successfully seeking help and support from community resources. Teachers work diligently to meet the wide range of education and emotional needs for all our children. Teachers provide guidance and inspiration, helping each student to meet his or her potentials. This board is well aware that the most important work in public education occurs in the classroom between teacher and student, and we know it's not an easy job. So tonight the board would like to thank all of you for all that you do for the students of Hsdsb. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you.
So we're going to move on to the approval of minutes. We have two sets tonight, April 10th, the regular meeting, and a non-public meeting.
I move that we accept both sets of minutes as presented.
I'll second.
take a minute, see if there are any corrections. If not, all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Melissa, are there any public comments tonight?
No, we didn't receive any requests tonight for public comment.
Okay, thank you. On to administrative reports. First, Principal Collins.
That's the one.
Good evening. I do have my principal's report. I have a couple things I want to add to the report this evening that didn't make it into the print just because they've been developing. Just a couple things I think are important. When we talk about kindergarten and preschool registration, we sent out a bunch of letters to our preschool families, and those families that have kindergartners are going to start getting letters as well. So people are asking, when is that stuff rolling out? It's pretty soon. I can also tell you at this point in time, we have a lot of people that want full-day kindergarten, and also the numbers are, like I reported recently, kindergarten is the only grade level, the projections next year, that I think is not going to reach it or exceed it, which was the good one, because you might remember last year we talked about a program change. So I think we're going down the right path. So there will be a bunch of letters going out to the kindergarten families about that whole, who's going to go into full day. That's the first letter. Then the second letter is morning kindergarten, because those are the hot topics. So parents will be hearing more about that one. Preschool, the numbers are up. I can tell you that's where we are. And the big driving piece there has a lot to do with special education, identification pieces along that line. So we're exploring our options there to figure, make sure how we can do that program most effectively. Karen and I spent a lot of time working on our options, talking to the SAU, and we're working on that. So we'll give you more information if it's something that we are going to make any specific suggestions, but we're good. Moving on to the garbage gorillas, I alluded to the fact that composting is an option that we're actually exploring, because we've actually been working with the local recycling group for a number of years here. You know, the one person I just really wanted to say has been great is Ellen. She's done a great job with us to help us. She's a parent at the school. And then the other part of this is the people from the National Recycling Group actually come in and evaluate how are we doing at our school with recycling. And the last thing I keep hearing every year is, yeah, you do a great job recycling, your numbers are very good for your school. However, could you consider composting? So I'm working on a composting proposal. I actually have a local farmer that offered to help out with it a little bit, so we're trying to see what we can do there. Again, I'm still working on it, but I just wanted to tease you a little bit there to say we're working on it. The last one I just wanted to talk a little bit, I alluded to it in the letter, is testing is starting, which is that favorite thing everybody looks forward to is the New Hampshire state testing. Just remind you that Smarter Balanced is no more. It's been replaced as what is referred to as New Hampshire SAS. And it actually starts at Central School tomorrow. You might remember in previous years we did that during the month of April. We were allowed, just to the design of it this year, to do it in May to get more April instructional time. So the students will be starting New Hampshire SAS at the Central School tomorrow. A lot of letters went out to emails to parents last week, and letters have also gone to get them into the loop about what's going on. So third grade is actually the first group that starts into it tomorrow. So we're just trying to keep parents in that loop, and there's stuff posted on our website as well. And the last one is not even in my report, but it's really kind of a fun thing. I've been talking to, once again, a great parent at our school. She's a manager with a group company called Walgreens. People have heard of that company. But this time of the year, they associate themselves with something called the Red Nose Day. If you don't know what Red Nose Day is about, it started with comic relief, and so therefore the red nose, the clown thing, is kind of the fun piece that goes along with that. But it is actually a very important topic which we're going to be addressing at Central School throughout this month through morning announcements. We've got some small lessons that would go with the classrooms and morning meetings. And we're actually going to have an assembly just to sort of let the children be aware. Red Nose is teaching our students about the issues of poverty, the importance of fostering empathy, and empowering them to use their voice to drive positive change in the world around them. And of course, having a fun time with the Red Nose. So the parents will actually see their kids come home with a red nose, like a little tchotchke type gift. And we're not asking them to raise funds because there's plenty of other vehicles for them to raise, but we just want the children to understand that, poverty does exist, homelessness does exist, and there are ways that you can show empathy, and there are ways that you can sort of work with them. So we're going to make it more of a learning experience with the children. I'm not doing a fundraiser, and some of the people will come in and share some things with them, and I'm, of course, following all the policies to make sure they give the message we approve and all that, but it's going to be actually part of our all-school meeting, because we've been doing each of those each month. So that'll actually be happening, and we're aligning it on the 24th of the month because that's when the rest of the world does this. And if you don't know how this started, it went way back to England in 1988, I think it is, and it moved over to the United States, and so it's kind of a national thing. So if you've ever been to Walgreens, there's a little bucket to throw in a couple of bucks and donate a red nose. That'll mean you probably pay for the hundreds of red noses that are going out of Central School with the kids at the end of the month. So it's a lot of fun. If you want to Google Red Nose Day, you can learn a lot about it. It's a great thing, and we're using it as a teaching experience for our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you. We have a lot going on at the middle school, and I'm not going to read everything, and there's some add-ons at the end because it's ever-changing. I just wanted to give you an update. I spoke to you with regards to some of the competitions our children had been involved in, and I wanted to just let you know that Ben Adams, in the district oratorical program, he placed 4th in the state, which was a great way for the juniors to ready for the high school version of the oratorical. So congratulations to 8th grader Ben Adams for 4th in the state. Next, we had federal prosecutor Dina Michael Chedowitz visit Hempstead Middle School for many hours preparing our 23 students who participated in the oratorical competition. And she spent the day with the students talking about the Fourth Amendment, and specifically the case of New Jersey v. TLO, which is all of us who have in education have taken that, our school law courses. It's a very important case, and it involves search of students' property by school officials. So she came in, she spoke with the students to prepare them for the mock trials. They worked with some prosecutors at the State House and the federal courthouse for the day. They worked in small groups, created their positions, and they had a spokesperson from each group who then presented the case in front of lawyers and judges. The feedback with regards to our students, which was a very proud thing, the teachers came back saying that the people at the State House were just like, wow, our kids were extremely well spoken, they were very well prepared, they handled themselves with a lot of poise, and they really brought the Constitution alive. So maybe we have some lawyers in the making here in Hempstead Middle School. They definitely know how to debate very well. So I'm very happy about that. And I also told you about a 5th grader, Juliana Kaika. She had been processed to the state level for the as a writing competition at the national, at the state level. She has won the state award for level 1 in that writing competition, and now she is going to the national level at the Library of Congress. So that will go forward in the fall. So congratulations to Juliana, 5th grader, just writing it and getting it done. Very proud of her. On May 25th, it's an early release day for us, and we are going to be working on the reflection part of our personal learning plans. Students have been working in small groups, looking at short-term goals, long-term goals, academic goals, and looking at their futures, working with an adult. This is our first year working on this. We have already made some changes to it. Teachers have made some revisions, and we're going to adjust the personal learning plans to be more geared towards the 5th and 6th graders, and then 7th and 8th graders. We found that so generalized form needed to be upgraded a bit. So we are looking forward to those conversations, see who our kids are. They're placing that in their digital portfolios. I was reviewing a lot of them today, and I'm proud of their work so far, and we'll do even better next year on this work. I wanted you to know about the 5th grade transitions. I just placed them down there. I'm not going to read through every single one of them, but our teachers did meet with the Hampstead Central School teachers on April 19th to discuss our new students coming to us. We have the parent night on May 23rd that Mrs. Karpinski and I will welcome the parents in, give them a tour of the building, talk to them of what it means to be a Hawk and all that we have to offer, and hopefully make it comfortable for them so they can assure their children that it's a wonderful place that they are entering. We have the annual meet and greet where our 4th graders will come to HMS to learn about what it means to be a Hawk personally. They'll be talking to other students. We have ambassadors that will be going down to the Central School regularly. This is a student leadership piece for our 5th graders to be ambassadors and welcome them into our school and make some connections. And I have to thank Mrs. Karpinski for really expanding our transition processes. On June 20th, our last day of school, we will welcome our new 5th graders to the middle school. They'll walk on up, if it's a good day, through the access road and get to meet their homeroom teachers and get a feel for their new school for a second time. So 8th grade transitions, all the courses have been selected thus far for our 8th graders that are graduating. Their schedules are have been selected. The guidance school counselors came over from Pinkerton and spent a day speaking to every single one of our students about course selections. And then they went home to parents for final approval. Then our students are going on May 22nd to the CU for Reality program, and it's a financial educational piece that St. Mary's Bank offered last year that we went, and the students really came back saying it was a great eye-opener. They pick a career such as school principal, engineer, housekeeper, and they just pick that career and they follow it through the day of what it means to live on that specific salary, what the training is to support that kind of a career, and really feel what it means to be in the real world of picking a career, which lends itself very well with our personal learning plans. So that's coming up, and I want to say last week was Screen-Free Week. Our 7th graders participated in releasing themselves from screen time along with their families. And I will tell you, we had 90% of our 7th graders be successful in cutting out screen time. And thank goodness, Mrs. BW thinks of everything. She scheduled a book tasting with our librarian for all the children to come into the library, and they had all of our new books and books that maybe would not have been picked by students on a regular basis. They put them all out there as a book tasting on the tables, and they sold the books to the kids of like, you may not think of picking up this book, but this is what it's about. And we had over 80 books were checked out on that day of the first part of Screen-Free Week, and then parents gave us great accolades about that additional 3,000 hours that families put in last week of together time, puzzles, going out bowling, talking, not looking at their screens, and we had so many more books that needed to be checked out because kids were just flying through the books. So that was a great opportunity for our kids. The students, as you know, are going to Washington, D.C. the first week of June. And for those students who are not participating in the D.C. trip for their own reasons, we'll be participating in a field trip to UNH for an engineering STEAM day where Mrs. Griffin is working closely with the Chase Ocean Engineering Lab, the wind tunnel, the high bay and water roving test tanks, and seagoing room. So UNH is very happy for our kids to come because the campus will be empty. Everyone will have been graduated, so they are just rolling out the welcome wagon for our 8th graders to participate. So I listed a whole bunch of other things at the end, and if you have any questions, I'm open to them.
Any questions from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Sophie, what's going on at Pinkerton?
Okay, the senior end of the year schedule has been modified since last meeting. The last day of classes has been moved from the 29th of May to the 31st of May. This doesn't impact the date of graduation. It just moves up finals 2 days, and it takes away competency recovery that will now be after school instead of having its own day. This has no impact on underclassmen and when they graduate or anything like that. Not graduate, but finish classes. On May 31st, the last day of school, there's a field trip for all New Hampshire scholars. To be a New Hampshire scholar at Pinkerton, you have to have 4 credits of English, 4 credits of math, 3 credits of science, 3.5 credits of social studies, and 2 years of a language at Pinkerton. Also this week, we have AP exams. AP exams, if the student scores a high enough score, which the colleges put out what score they want to see, you can get a college credit for that score. Most colleges want to see a 4 or 5, but some will accept 3s. The AP exams don't affect the schedules of students who are not taking AP exams this week. It only affects students who are taking the exams. Junior prom is also scheduled for next Saturday, so not this Saturday, but the 19th. This year's theme is Hollywood Lights. The faculty play is scheduled for May 16th and 17th in the Stockbridge Theater. This year, the teachers will be putting on Once Upon a High School. They're really funny, actually. We went last year, and it was so funny. Faculty and staff participated in an active intruder training last week. They had their on-campus officer, along with other officers from the police station, come in and talk to them and answer questions and go through what would happen. For faculty this week, for Staff Appreciation Week, Pinkerton is having a Spirit Week for all the staff. So Monday, all the staff got to dress up in their sports gear, Patriots. If they want to do Pinkerton gear, they could. There's also raffles, and on the morning announcements, they're shouting out teachers who students have recognized as helping them throughout the year. Students also can write a note during their lunches to teachers and tell them how much they appreciate them and why, and then those will all get sent to the teachers at the end of the week. In recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month at Pinkerton, tomorrow, juniors and sophomores will have an assembly. Former Supreme Court Justice John Broderick will be there. Broderick will be there. He is changing the culture and communication surrounding mental illness for all communities.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
No? Thank you very much, Sophie. Appreciate it every time you come and give us an update. It's helpful. Next on the agenda was Mr. Peter Megan and Martha Pond from the Hsdsb Educational Foundation. Tell us a little bit about your activities and what you've been involved in.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Martha Pond. Behind me is Peter Megan. We're here to talk to you about Hsdb's best-kept educational secret as the Hsdsb Educational Foundation. So HEF is an organization that, I'll talk about its founding in a minute, but that grants teachers grants in both central school and middle school for curricular enrichment, for things that aren't part of the traditional budget. We also grant typically 3 scholarships to Hsd residents that are seniors every year, college scholarships. HEF, Hsd Educational Foundation, was actually an offshoot from the school board way back in 1997 as part of our strategic plan. It was originally proposed that this be a fundraising, some of you might remember this a long time ago, a fundraising granting institution, and the original members, many of whom are no longer with us, range from Dick Fugere and Mark Masterson to Beverly Goodrich and Mary White. I came on a couple of years into it. I think I started in 2000. So a long-running organization that a lot of people don't know about, so that's why we wanted to come back and remind you that we were here and what we do. So we are a nonprofit organization, and our major goal is to enhance the educational experience of Hempstead's children, and that's what we look at when we look to fund our grants. So since we became, it was the 1997 offshoot, we organized as an organization in 1999, and since then we have given away an awful lot of money that Peter's going to talk about momentarily. There's about 10 active board members. Our new president is Candace Schmidt. Schmitz. Kathy Hoppo was president for many years, and before that, Mary Preble. So again, some names that you probably know. We grant funds, or we fund grants for both schools, both the central school and the middle school. Peter's going to talk about that in a minute. They're curriculum grants. We don't fund food or travel, but we look for impact in the classroom for what teachers are looking to do. Our grant application is due before Thanksgiving recess. We meet, we talk about the grants, we look at their educational impact, and we fund as many as we possibly can. The application is available on the website, and then we send it out to the principals, and they make sure that it gets out to relevant people. We have people come and speak at faculty meetings to make sure everybody is aware of it. When our primary goal is how many students are impacted and what the curricular impact is. We also have typically awarded 3 scholarships every year of $500 apiece. There's been 1 or 2 years where we've done more than that. There's a plaque hanging, right, Mrs. Nola, still in the middle school lobby, listing those names going all the way back. The scholarships are named for Beverly Goodrich, one of our founding members, Jonathan Graspa, who was killed in action, Patty Graspa, our former middle school principal's son, and Bob Nolan, Sheila Nolan's husband, who is also, I neglected to mention, a founding member of HEF. So those are who the scholarships are named for. In order to be a scholarship recipient, you need to be a Hampstead resident, but you do not have to be a Pinkerton Academy student. You simply have to be a Hampstead resident. And those applications are available on the website. They're due the beginning of April. We then meet and we do a blind survey, and this year, 20...
There were over 20.
Yeah, it was a really tough choice this year. Really high-quality students coming out of the Hampstead schools. And so what we're looking for is academics, community service, extracurricular activities, work, and particularly a personal statement.
Well, thank you, Martha. So very briefly, as mentioned, my name is Peter Megan, just touching upon some of the results, the magnitude of what HEF provides to the community. We looked at the last 6 years, and over the last 6 years, we've donated close to $14,000 to help out for literally programs that aren't necessarily in the budget or anything like that. We received 38 grants, and we approved 31. So the hit rate is pretty good. If you submit a grant, and I have to tell you, there are some teachers that really understand the benefits because we receive an application from them each year and typically approve it each year. So get out there and apply. We are approving them. If we look at some of those different grants, the largest grant that we've done is actually this year, the 7th grade field trip, funding close to $3,000 for all of the 7th grade students to participate in the Take Flight field trip, which I believe is coming up within the next week or so?
A week from Friday.
A week from Friday. So very exciting for us to be key in helping fund that worthwhile field trip. The STEAM Family Night, we typically fund each year. Prior to that, the Invention Convention we also funded. There are also things in the way of other grants, arts and things of that nature. The UNH a cappella group, when they performed, we helped fund that, and then likewise the American Idol Alex Preston performance or so, we helped fund that as well. So you see the diversity in what we're involved in helping fund. To the teachers out there, submit your grant application, chances are we'll fund it. In terms of scholarships, we have funded over $16,000 in just the past 10 years, and if you look at the history of HEF, it's over $25,000. With over 50 students being able to say, I received a scholarship. And it's not so much the money, that's nice, but being able to say you're a scholarship recipient and everything that Martha talked about that it stands for is pretty terrific. Finally, in how the community can help us, we don't badger anybody other than the donations that we receive, and we thank those people that help toward the scholarships. We run one charitable fundraising event each year, and that's the Festival of Wreaths. Typically happens that first Saturday in November. This past year we raised over $2,500. So for people to just show up at that and participate, it helps drive all of this.
We also wouldn't object if you made a wreath. That would be a lovely thing.
There you go. That's all part of helping support it.
So look for those announcements. We start doing that beginning of end of September, beginning of October. We start soliciting wreaths, and some classroom teachers are great at having their classes make wreaths, but that's how we do the fundraiser in conjunction with the Mothers Club.
So with that, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So am I hearing that you would like a wreath from the school board this year? You know, we have a very artsy, craftsy board member here who I think would be able to help us out in that area.
I can do one. I think Caitlin's done one in the past, hasn't she?
Wow, this is good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Children.
See, all these hidden talents on school board. Okay, Dr. Dancy, you are here to request approval for transfer of funds, correct?
I have two
Okay,
proposals. The first is the transfer of $15,000 from the technology budget to the facilities budget in order to make preparation for the new server room, to include the electrical, air conditioning, and new tiling. You have the details there in front of you, and if you need me to ask or answer any questions.
yeah, I think we knew this was coming, so
Yeah,
it's not a
we've
surprise.
been talking about this
it
for
for a
a
while.
couple of years now.
It's just that the facilities budget does not have this project in them, and I do have the funds within the technology budget to fund this project.
So I'm going to make a motion that we transfer $15,000 from technology to facilities. Is that correct? All right.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Just for the public that may not be aware, this is to move the server room out of the room with the water tanks
Correct.
and into a room that has
Does
no
not.
moisture.
It's better suited for
Yes.
Does
all
not
the
have
equipment.
water tanks in it.
Correct.
Yeah, and like I said, we've talked about this for a number of years. This has been a known issue, and so we're addressing it.
Yeah, and we just need to do this because anything over $5,000 needs board approval.
Correct.
So that's why Dr. Dancy's here today. Okay, no further discussion, ready for a vote, all in favor? It's unanimous, thank you very much.
Thank you. The second proposal is to establish a standard practice of delivering the retiring Chromebooks to the 8th grade class as they leave Hempstead. After 3 to 4 years, they have tremendously reduced their value, and we would normally just throw them away or not salvage them. Upon leaving last year, the board opted to give the Chromebooks to the students that were 4 years old. This year's, the students their Chromebooks are only 3 years old because of a purchase about 4 years ago of a defective model, but they have had the same amount of take-home years as any other class would have had, so they have incurred just as much wear and tear as any other class would have given them. So I'm recommending that this year's we do the same as we would for any other that would have them for 4 years. So the board is free to modify this if they'd like to charge for the Chromebooks, but based on last year's action, I'm recommending that we just give them to the students.
So I'll make the motion that the board approve the proposal and give the Chromebooks to the 8th grade students in accordance with the proposal that we have from the technology department, or technology committee, excuse me.
Is there a second? Discussion? I think we had this full discussion last year at this
Correct.
time.
Yeah.
And it was decided then that
Right.
it just seems the right thing to do. To charge at the end of the year doesn't seem to make much sense.
I just want to emphasize, though, for members of the public that are not familiar with the Chromebook device, that this really is not valuable to the district at all, that it's not that we're giving away,
They're truly end of life.
They're done.
that they are
They really
They're
are.
end of life.
So,
I wouldn't put these in the hands of another student.
right.
So how valuable is this gift that we're letting them take?
It's not really, but they've had it for 4 years, and some of them still work, so they can use it for as long as YouTube will play on it.
Right. So I think we're good with that. So there's a motion on the table, and it's been seconded. All in favor of the motion as presented? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Dancy, for bringing it to us. Now, Hampstead Middle School Unified Arts Integration. We've been waiting for this presentation.
much anticipated and very, very patient teachers, I will say. And it's my profound pleasure to introduce members of the Unified Arts team. And as I was back there just seeing the backs of your heads, it's amazing the amount of hours that these professionals put into their art form and the development of our children as artists outside of being academics, but the experiential piece that they offer them during 8 to 2:45, but it goes so much longer. Mrs. Downey, I know you're at the art show. She's hanging at 10 o'clock at night. Mrs. Rubin just did track practice. Coach, you just came from practice. Mr. Remillard, you're there day in, day out. Mr. Robbins, you're all weekend. You were with our kids at different festivals. Mr. Fisher, you were at a festival all day Saturday. So their time is so precious. So I am very deeply honored that you would give your time this evening. So on your request, I would like to hand it over to Mrs. Downey to lead us off on arts integration at the middle school.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Kim Downey, and I'm the art teacher at Hsdsb Middle School, and I'm here with a few members of the HMS Unified Arts team to share with you some of the ways we integrate arts into grade-level curriculum. We're fortunate that Hsdsb has strong support for the arts. We have a robust program that truly offers students the opportunity to learn, explore, and have fun. These activities in Unified Arts classes are valuable to our students and assist them in preparation for all that is offered at Pinkerton Academy. We are happy to share with you some of what we do in our classrooms, as well as some of our co-teaching opportunities with grade-level teachers. At Hsdsb Middle School, integration occurs in many different ways. We offer co-teaching opportunities when schedules allow. Curriculum is aligned so students are connecting subject-level material with arts material and supports, such as creating in-class activities that tie two curriculums together. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to explain what is Unified Arts integration. The Kennedy Center for Performing Arts defines art integration as an approach to teaching in which students construct and demonstrate understanding through an art form. Students engage in a creative process which connects an art form and another subject area and meets evolving learning objectives in both. Arts integration provides teachers with the opportunity to transform their classrooms so children are observing, comparing, assessing, critiquing, analyzing, and creating while integrating other content areas in a meaningful and relevant way. We all know that many children learn by doing, and the arts are intrinsically doing by nature. I would now like to introduce Mr. Robbins and Mr. Fisher from the music department.
Good evening. Hi, everyone. We're excited to be here, and as Mrs. Downey just mentioned, we're only going to mention a couple of examples of the ways that we are either co-teaching or integrating with the academic areas. One class that I teach is 5th grade general music. It's a 45-day class. All students receive general music. Primarily, the course is based on rhythm and rhythmic literacy. So as our musicians know, music is math and rhythm is math. So we try to make as many fraction connections and as many mathematical equation connections to rhythm on a daily basis. Two specific projects that I do in my class is a music through science and a science through sound unit that's co-taught with Mrs. Mayu. Students are analyzing wavelengths, frequency, and connecting to the science curriculum in 5th grade. Another project I do in 5th grade is called The Poetry of Music and Soundtrack of My Life. Students are connecting to their own personal narratives that they write in Mrs. Maroney's class and analyzing songs for poetic devices, simile, metaphor, which, as we know, are important through our entire academic careers. So that's general music. And the next one is, I teach 5th through 8th grade chorus. 7th and 8th grade chorus is daily, year-round. And primarily, the ways I integrate in my class is through the repertoire selection that I do. I try to be very thoughtful about the pieces that I program for my students, not just that they're fun and exciting, but they have a curricular connection. For example, last year, Mrs. Wolf's class, they taught about our founding fathers and civics and government. So I chose a piece from the new musical Hamilton called Alexander Hamilton, and you'll see a photo here of them performing and role-playing the different roles, Aaron Burr, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson. They really enjoyed that one. Another piece I've done is called Esto Les Digo. It is a Spanish language piece. Although it wasn't performed, we're learning it on a regular basis to work on our Spanish accents. dialogue, and then we've also done many pieces in Latin, which again, the Romance languages, they're all connected for the accent. I also do an entire unit on vocal health, which connects to Mrs. Muskrat and the science curriculum. And I've done, music on the Sudanese basket weaving. I've done a piece on 9/11. The students have done pieces in remembrance to the Holocaust. So generally, the integration I do in my class is through the repertoire. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As Mr. Fisher mentioned, all music classes at the middle school have a large literacy component where they are reading and writing multiple forms of rhythmic and melodic music notation. And we also go into the social influence of music in my general music classes and create connections and support the social studies curriculum. In 6th grade general music, we connect the students' study of early American society through the exploration of both European and American composers active during that time, including Bach, Handel, Vivaldi, and American composer William Billings, among others. In the 7th grade guitar classes, we connect to the social studies curriculum as well during their time when they're studying about the Cold War and the impacts it had. We discuss things that happened during that time and learn to play We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel and have a great time doing it. Again, lots of connections with the social studies curriculum. In the 8th grade guitar class, they spend some time discussing the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s, and we have guitars in our hand, as did the protesters in the 50s and 60s, and we play some protest songs and talk about their meaning and how they connect to what they're talking about in social studies class. Along with the general music classes I teach, I also teach all of the instrumental ensembles at the middle school, and as Mr. Fisher mentioned earlier, we are constantly making that connection between music and math with rhythm and fractions and ratios. And we also delve into science when we talk about group balance and how the different instruments create different sound waves and how they can use that knowledge to help themselves blend and sound better as an ensemble. And I've gone so far as with some 7th grade science classes, taken that idea of sound frequency and gone into the science classes and discussed this wonderful thing called the overtone series or harmonic series upon which almost every musical instrument is based, and discuss how notes are related and how engineers and scientists and mathematicians and builders need to figure out mathematically and scientifically how to build an instrument so that it doesn't sound bad. And they've been very receptive to that and have had a lot of good times doing that. Another thing that all of our instrumentalists and vocalists experience at the middle school is civic engagement and civic action and civic participation through community events such as the Town Veterans Day ceremony at the middle school, the Hampstead Fire Department's Christmas Parade, and if you're free next Tuesday and Wednesday, our spring concerts. The bands play on Tuesday and the choruses sing on Wednesday, so it would be great to see you all there. So as we continue, I'd like to introduce our new fantastic physical education teacher, Mr. Nick Arroyo.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Robbins. As they've stated before, integrating subject matter and elements of the classroom into physical education not only supports, but it enhances the classroom lessons, as well as gives students more of exposure to the content learned in their classrooms. In physical education, the daily use of music has been linked to motivate physical activity and movement. We use music every day, and it's also a way for students to kind of understand the flow and the flow of class and how it works. They know when to stop and start, and music is a huge part of that. Students also have the opportunity to incorporate technology in the physical education classroom by the use of pedometers. We also use fitness videos. One of them is seen in the picture below. Math is used daily in physical education and athletics through a variety of ways. Some simple examples are math battles that we use during tag games, scorekeeping. We also in the picture shown on the top right and in the center, there is a mathletics task sheets where the students have to complete mathematic equations and problems and consistently do exercises in order to complete those math problems. In one lesson, students were working in the top left with their relay teams to collect letters and build vocabulary words that they were using in social studies. So the collaboration with the classroom teachers helped support a variety of ways to integrate into this classroom, and it's only going to continue to get better as I am more familiar with our staff and getting to know our students, and that's how we integrate in physical education. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Allison Rubin from Family Consumer Science. Thank you.
Hi, I teach Family Consumer Science, both 6, 7, and 8. In 6th grade, along with Dave Remillard, we talk about the hydroponic systems. So I have one in my room that the kids are learning to use and the benefits of having it. And the concept, they connect with science, concepts of photosynthesis, and why water is important, and nutrients, and every living thing needs light to grow. We also connect that into our wellness unit that I do with 6th grade, which, again, has a direct connection with science. In 7th grade, we focus on financial literacy, again, with a connection with math. The kids learn about the difference between a debit and a credit card, how they learn how to read a paycheck, a bank statement, how to pay rent and bills. We use a program that scripts them through this process, and then they go to a game where they have to have enough money at the end to go to college. From there, we go and we work on creating a business plan, and I try and connect our business plan to an activity that's going on in the school. So in the fall, we connected with the hurricane relief dinner. In the winter, we connected with Mr. Fisher's play, and currently we are connecting with Wellness Week. So my kids are in the process of marketing Wellness Week, and they are going to be in charge of Thursday's Try It Thursday, and they're going to have healthy snacks that the kids are going to be able to try at lunch. So that's 7th grade. In 8th grade, our focus becomes more on connecting with the reading and writing curriculum, and we talk a lot about careers. We research a career. They research personality types, which help them decide what careers are right for them. They learn to write a business letter to a career mentor that they'll invite in. They interview this mentor. They'll write a thank you letter, and they also work on developing a resume. So some really concrete skills that they'll be able to take with them as they go to Pinkerton. So now I would like to introduce Dave Remillard. No? Sorry, Kim Downey.
I'm coming back. Yeah. Thank you. The Hsdsb Middle School Visual Arts curriculum units are diverse and use multimedia and meet the requirements of the National Core Art Standards. Students are not only creating an art, but presenting, responding, and connecting. Lessons are carefully crafted to include art history, artists to know, and direct connections to academic classes. The art department worked with the 5th grade team integrating visual art with the Christmas Carol. 5th grade reading classes were visited twice, preparing students for a personal past, present, and future illustration. The 5th grade attended the Christmas Carol performance at the Palace Theater, and after, students were assisted with their artwork when we returned. Students were able to use their artwork to make real-life connections and use higher-order thinking skills to synthesize the transformation of Ebenezer Scrooge. Our media specialist planned an author visit from author-illustrator Jarrett Krasoska. The 6th grade students created their own unlikely hero cartoon character based on his Lunch Lady series. We used the author's published sketchbook for inspiration and also included special skills, gadgets, and villains. The author visited today, and we were very happy to share our ideas with him. I would now like to introduce Mr. Remillard, Media Arts.
The HMS Media Arts program is designed and based upon the goals identified by the National Core Arts Standards. The curriculum enables students to develop their creative abilities for making art in the studio. interpreting and evaluating in visual images as an art critic, raising questions about the nature of art and the aesthetics. Media arts class provides students with the opportunity to express creativity as well as participate in divergent thinking and creative problem solving. Making connections to media all around us, we have always been told not to judge a book by its cover. How does a book cover artwork function to convey meaning, manage the audience's experience? Students visit the HMS library, selecting a book to read, only judged by the book cover. They create mood boards to identify the elements that make up the book cover. Students write their own stories, developing digital inspiration boards, creating book covers using graphic design software. In the absence of Mr. Pimentel, I will speak on his slides. Computer technology. Why do we still have a computer lab? Wired machines are faster. There are many applications that just must be done on a high-powered machine. Graphic Intense usually provides us with that. We need that for that system. Exposure and understanding of different operating systems is vital for all of our students. Better understanding of files and the file management, as we all have, each student has a Chromebook and is constantly accessing digital files. And exposure to Microsoft Office and other document systems like that. Through frequent communication with teachers, we assign student projects with the curriculum that is being covered in regular ed classes. For example, in math, planning and budgeting for a dream vacation. In social studies, they have web quests using Google Maps, stop animation, and the Constitution Project. In science, they have science shares, weather patterns, and use weather pattern spreadsheets. And in the Spanish classes, they create a video project. Throughout, critical thinking and problem solving through coding is at the heart of that course. On behalf of the Unified Arts team, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Just like to say, I think that it's really amazing that you're all so knowledgeable in your own content area, and you do such a great job. Music, Mr. Fisher, Mr. Robbins, Mr. Arroyo, yeah, and Allison and Kim. I just think it's amazing that you do such a great job in your own content areas. You're focused on that. You give us a great product at the end, whether it's a concert or a chorus or an art show or something in phys ed that we do. But to be able to interconnect all that, to really take the A out of STEAM and connect it with all that your colleagues are doing, I think is amazing, and I think it just really benefits our students and allows them to have such a well-rounded education. So I personally just want to thank you so much for the time that you put in to make sure that this happens for our kids.
I just wanted to add to that, and thank you, Madam Chair, because I think that was great. That's very consistent with my thoughts on this. I think if you look at the last few years, or the years at least that I've been on the board has made a conscious choice to focus on STEAM education as opposed to STEM. And that was a deliberate choice because we value the arts within this district. And over the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to interact with a lot of school boards, whether they are here in New Hampshire or across the country, and I can tell you that there are still a number of districts across the country that are struggling with arts integration pieces. And I get excited because I get to talk, when I meet, I get to talk about the work that we're doing and the great work that we're doing in integrating so many different subject areas, doing the co-teaching, doing these large-scale lessons and large-scale projects, often grade-level projects, but combining so many different disciplines. And I point that out because we see it as just, that's normal. That's just what happens when you go into our schools. You're going to see that, but I point that out because that's not normal. It's not happening in every district. And I think it's a testament to the board for having the wherewithal to listen to our educators who were saying, this is something we need to do, and then saying, what do you need? What kind of resources do you need? And we've been, I think, good about making investments in areas that we're now seeing a payoff, and trusting our educators, trusting our administrators, to tell us where the resources are needed. So, it's exciting to see some of these things because we've made investments with the hope that we do this. Like the hydroponics is a good example, right? We switched food service vendors. I remember sitting at this table and talking about hydroponics, and now we get to see it happening there, right? I remember when it was like 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, we made an additional investment in some robotics kits for ventures and for technology. And other board members were like, wait a minute, if we're going to make that, we also need to make an investment in the art piece of it, right?
Yep.
I remember sitting at this table and talking about it.
We did.
And so we start to see the fruition of the work that this board has done in collaborating with our educators, and I just think it's fantastic. So, thank you.
And there's absolutely no way we would have been able to fund it if we didn't have the expertise that they possess to be able to carry it out. So thank you so very much.
Yep. Thank you.
I just want to thank them all for being available tonight. I know this isn't an easy time to ask teachers to come and present, but this has been on the back burner for over a year now, this presentation. And I see it every day. When I'm over there, I see this integration. And so I was really happy to see the results of your collaboration, because I think you really gave a nice picture to the public and also to the board of the way that you work as a team. And that's not in every school. So congratulate each other and yourselves for the work that you just did. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Don't go. Don't go. Don't go. You're funny. Next on the agenda is the Homework Advisory Committee recommendation. I believe Doris Bucco, District Facilitator, you will be presenting tonight.
Yes. Yes, well, while she gets that set up, did we lose someone?
Just need Cliff to come back.
Okay.
Okey-dokey. Okay.
This was one of the goals from the school board, and just a second.
Yeah, we'll just,
Would you go back one, please?
let me just see if he put it at the end.
Sorry for the delay.
Okay.
We're getting technical assistance.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
We need some technical assistance.
Who do we need?
We're there.
He's coming back.
I can't locate it.
Oh.
Mine.
Yours.
But this presentation, this committee, it was part of a school board goal. And as part of that goal, we've put together a committee. And Doris has been facilitating that process since September. And she's going to review the membership, who's on the committee, the research that they looked at, and their recommendations to the board about any policy or procedural changes for homework.
While he's pulling up the slide, I'm here this evening to present that final report. And we have several members of our committee here this evening. We have Amy Bernard, a parent and a teacher at Pinkerton Academy, Francine Glynn, our Assistant Special Education Director. Our two principals are here this evening as well, and Kathleen was the school board representative on our committee. Thank you. So in tonight's presentation, I'd like to just highlight for you the names of the people that served on this committee, share with you the purpose of our committee, give you an overview of the work of our committee, share with you a summary of our findings, and then share with you our recommendations and next steps. So we had teachers from our schools. We had, as I mentioned, our special education assistant director, principals, assistant principals, three parents, one of whom, Amy, a teacher at Pinkerton Academy. Okay. And then we were given the purpose of this committee, which was to address your curriculum and assessment goal, in particular to research the potential to reduce homework by identifying the advantages, disadvantages of homework, looking at options for practices, and making recommendations. And we're here tonight to share those recommendations with you. Looking at our committee's work, we reviewed the current district policy and procedure for homework. The policy for homework was last updated in 2005, and the homework procedure was last updated in 2012. We did review our current K through 8 and Pinkerton Academy homework practices, and we gathered information from each grade level as to their current homework practices. And Amy shared with us the new homework guidelines for Pinkerton Academy, which used to be time-based, but currently it is expected that homework at Pinkerton be purposely designed, including learning activities of practice, preparation, and/or extension. There are no more time guidelines because students vary in the time that they need to complete the various types of assignments and their individual learner needs. Our committee also reviewed the effectiveness, benefits, and the drawbacks of homework from our various readings. And we also identified if our current policy, procedures, and grade level practices reflect the results of the committee's research. And one example that we found in our current policy, there's that statement that homework assignments be differentiated when appropriate to allow for varying levels of challenge. And we found that in collecting and looking at what's currently happening at each grade level, we didn't see a lot of evidence of that differentiated homework. What we found in most classrooms, the majority of students were completing the same assignments, and personalizing differentiated homework assignments was something that we found in our readings. Let me go back for a moment. And we identified issues and brainstormed ideas for improvements, and that we will share with you this evening. And then you have that final report from the committee with our recommendations. Now, looking at the research, we looked at both sides of the issue, the drawbacks and benefits of homework. We looked at 17 pieces of literature, and we really focused on what has been published within the past 5 years. And we looked at various publications, professional journals, such as the Journal on Meaningful Homework by the Professional Organization Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development. Some of us read this current book, Bringing Homework into Focus. Amy brought this book to our attention. This was a book read by a study group at Pinkerton, and we also have some teachers who are taking an online course called Assignment Homework, Where, When, and Why, and this is the book that they're reading for their homework assignment, and this book has a lot of quantitative research that is highlighted. We also looked at research from other professional organizations such as the American Psychological Association. We looked at various articles published by the New York Times, Washington Post, and Public TV. And what we found, that conclusions from researchers on whether homework improves achievement is debatable because of the number of factors, such as the differences that exist in children, teachers, homework tasks, home environment, and measurements of learning. And just to paraphrase this particular author, homework research is especially problematic because researchers are tending to study the effect of something that happens out of their sight, out of their control. And researchers aren't present in homes when homework is being done. So we're not sure, some researchers are not aware as to whether students are really doing their homework independently, getting assistance from parents or even from the internet in completing their homework. We did find in our readings that there are benefits to homework. And to really summarize what the benefits are, we did reach the conclusion that homework can positively impact student performance if it's relevant, meaningful, and engaging. So homework really needs to be connected to what's happening in the classroom. If it's just a rote homework assignment, it's not beneficial. If students don't understand the assignment completely, it's really not benefiting them. And if students aren't getting feedback on their homework, it's not beneficial. What really impacts students' performance is that homework should be differentiated, because what my needs as a learner are going to be different from someone else's needs. What I need to work on, or how I can extend my skills or apply my knowledge will differ between students. So one of our recommendations, which I'll highlight again in a few minutes, is that we really feel homework needs to be personalized and differentiated, along with being relevant, engaging, and meaningful. We also found from our readings that homework can assist students in developing time management skill, which is an important life skill that we all need. We all need to learn to prioritize our time. So if I'm a student who has soccer practice at 6 o'clock, I probably should be doing my homework before I go to soccer practice, because I'm going to be too tired when I get home. And students need to learn not to procrastinate when they're given an assignment, or take breaks when they're doing their homework. So that's all as part of time management. We also consider the drawbacks of homework. We know that as teachers, we can't assume that parents are always available or able to help with homework assignments. And we do know that homework can cause stress in families because of parents' work schedules. Parents and kids are involved in numerous family activities. Moms and dads are trying to prepare dinner. And we also know that teachers may not always be monitoring the time the students are spending on completing the homework, because what may take one student 10 minutes may take another student 30 minutes to complete. So, based on our readings and lots of discussion, we really wanted to focus on what makes sense for our students in Hampstead, K through 8th grade. And we did come to the conclusion that we do feel that homework does benefit students as extended learning opportunities, but we feel that homework needs to be personalized and differentiated. We really have to abandon that idea that one size fits all as far as homework. And we really are strongly recommending that homework be relevant, meaningful, and purposeful. Homework should not be busy work, it should not be rote work. And our final report to you has some guidelines as to what we consider to be meaningful, relevant, and purposeful homework. And we know that families have many obligations and outside interests, and we know the importance of scouts, religion classes, sports, piano lessons, and we know that kids also need time to relax, because all of that is part of a balanced family life. So because of, as a result of our readings, and we know that families are very, very busy and kids are very involved in lots of activities, we're recommending a continuum of homework practices within our district. Our first recommendation for K through 2nd is that no formal homework be assigned. We are recommending that teachers make suggestions to parents if parents would like some suggestions on how they can support their students at home, and these suggestions could be posted on their websites, such as practice your math facts, or read with mom and dad, practice your sight words. For grades 3 through 5, we are recommending that assigning homework nightly is not a requirement, and currently in our homework policy, our homework policy, homework is not a requirement, and we want to hold true to that as well with our recommendations. And we are emphasizing to teachers that when homework is assigned, again, it has to be purposeful, meaningful, and personalized to students' needs. And if homework is to be assigned, it needs to be communicated to parents via teachers' websites or PowerSchool or Google Classroom. It should be no more than 30 minutes. And we're recommending that homework not be graded at those grade levels, and that feedback definitely needs to be given to students. If students are taking the time to do an assignment, they need to be given feedback on completion of their work. And in 6th through 8th grade, again, we're recommending that nightly homework not be a requirement. That, again, it's only assigned when it's purposeful, meaningful, relevant. It needs to be personalized, communicated to parents. And when assigned, we're recommending that homework will gradually increase from 60 minutes at 6th grade to 80 minutes in 8th grade. And again, feedback be given in a timely manner. And for grades 6 through 8, some homework assignments may be graded. And if they're graded, parents and students need to be aware of that. And homework assignments should not count for more than 10% of a student's overall class grade. So our recommended next steps from our committee after our discussion and hopefully board approval is that we update our current homework policy and procedure, spend some time educating staff as to what is meaningful, purposeful homework, and we have some guidelines in our final report to you, that we address consistency among grade levels as far as some of the assignments. For example, we found that at some grade levels, if a project is assigned to students, it may be considered additional homework assignment versus replacing what students currently do for homework. And then it also share with parents our new homework policy and procedure. So just to recap our recommendation, we do, as a committee, feel that homework does support students' learning, that we view homework as extended learning opportunities for students to either be practicing, reinforcing a skill, extending their learning, applying what they're learning. But that assigning nightly homework definitely is not required for grades 3 through 8, and no formal homework be assigned for K through second grades. Though in K through second, we are recommending that teachers provide parents with some suggestions on ways that parents can extend the learning opportunities at home, such as reading together. That's so important at the primary grade levels, that parents and kids be reading together. And again, at the grades 6 through 8, if homework is assigned and if it's graded, it needs to be communicated to parents and students, and no more than 10% of a homework for grades be part of the overall student's grade on a report card. And feedback be given in a timely manner. That's so important. The students shouldn't have to wait several days for feedback on homework. So now the committee is here to answer your questions, comments.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the 12 people who spent their time on this committee. I know committee work isn't always fun, and it takes time away from other things that you're doing. So to begin, I would like to thank those people who spent time on this committee. And then I want to ask, how do you want to go about this? Do you want to go through your final report with questions that we might have, rather than general statements?
That's fine.
Board?
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead, do that first.
The ones that I have are mostly focused on the 3 to 5, 6 to 8. K through 2, I don't have any questions on it. Works for me. When we talk about differentiating and having individualized, basically individualized homework, how do you envision that working? Because I'm just envisioning a classroom of 25 kids and a teacher needing to have the time to come up with those more individual assignments. I just want to hear kind of feedback on, I realize there's not a plan in place now, I just would like to have an idea how that would happen.
I'm thinking maybe in a third grade classroom when the students are learning their multiplication facts, I need to work on my 2s or 3s, and this student needs to work on their multiplication facts for the 7s or 9s. Maybe this student already has mastered their multiplication facts and is ready to work on a different math skill. So we are picturing that, well, we know that teachers have the knowledge of where their kids are as far as the math curriculum, reading curriculum. This group of students could benefit from this particular assignment. This group of students could benefit from another assignment. It will take time.
Right.
It will take time.
Okay.
This will be something new for staff members.
Okay. And then my next question has to do with consistency kind of across the grade level. If I'm understanding correctly, so basically each teacher can decide if they're going to be assigning homework, that it's not required to be nightly, but we do want some consistency across the grade level.
Mm-hmm.
How do we approach that? If you have one teacher who says, okay, we're not going to be doing homework, whatever, 3 nights a week or something, and you have another teacher who has decided in their experience that it does benefit having this every night, how do we balance that across the grade?
Consistency.
We
Right.
find that our teachers frequently plan their homework assignments, similar homework assignments, and they have their PLC time to be generating similar homework assignments, because what may be beneficial for a group of students in one classroom definitely will benefit a group of students in another classroom. The communication is key, and we do provide teachers with the PLC time to be having those conversations. For example, right now in second grade, all students have the same spelling assignment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I just have one more and then somebody else can go. For 5th grade in particular, in the 3rd to 5th grade level, we're talking about not to exceed 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
For 5th grade, are we talking about 30 minutes total or 30 minutes per class?
Total.
Okay.
30 minutes a night.
Okay, and the same for 6th through 8th, 60 to 80 minutes
Total.
total?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because we recognize that students, they need time to be involved in sports and piano lessons and gymnastics and time to relax and spend time eating dinner with mom and dad. So we recognize there is a need to balance, our family lives and our school lives.
Okay. Jason?
I recognize that it's not necessarily the scope of this committee, but I'd like to just get an idea of, first of all, thank you to the people that were on the committee, but get an idea of the Pinkerton expectation. So here's what my concern is, right? It's whatever we decide and however we modify this. I wouldn't want it to be a situation where our students go from whatever we decide at the middle school, and then they're not prepared for whatever's happening at Pinkerton Academy. I just want to make sure that there's, whatever we decide, that we're setting them up to be successful when they get to Pinkerton, because as we know, we're not going to have a say in what Pinkerton does on their side. So I'm just trying to understand that. And maybe Amy can, because she's here, maybe can speak to that. Like I said, I'm interested in how what you're recommending matches up with Pinkerton, and are kids going to be in a position to be successful?
So if we're recommending 80 minutes at 8th grade, how does that support Pinkerton's new guidelines for homework? Sure.
Hello. Okay. So what I would say first is, as a Pinkerton teacher, I have found that the students from Hsdsb are overwhelmingly very prepared for Pinkerton as a whole thus far in my teaching experience, 16 years at Pinkerton. So I think one of the things we want to do is keep what is happening that's really great here at Hsdsb. So we looked at that. At Pinkerton, I think that we have varying levels of homework and expectations of students depending on the levels that they are in their classes and how many classes they're taking. So it varies depending on the student and their levels and their ages. So I think that in having it be a maximum of 80 minutes with our 8th graders, I think that that's going to give them enough experience in homework to be ready for a freshman year at Pinkerton, in my opinion.
And can I also ask too, because we have Sophie here, is probably closest to it, maybe her thoughts in terms of the transition from a homework perspective from the middle school to Pinkerton.
Right. So when I went to Pinkerton as a freshman, besides math class, most teachers try to stray away from assigning like one assignment that is due the next day. For the most part, it's more like projects or essays or things that you work on throughout the week. With Pinkerton students, there are very few Pinkerton students that don't have a study hall, which is 45 minutes. My freshman year, I did not work on homework for more than a half an hour every night because that study hall is when you get your math homework done. And if you budget your time with your English, English freshman year is relatively easy, but there are essays and stuff. That's the main difference. Is there's science sometimes, but for the most part, an English teacher isn't going to have you look up vocab words every night and then bring them in the next day. It's more of like a weekly thing, like this will be due next Monday kind of situation. So for freshman year, I would say that a half an hour, 2 hours is pretty fit. But as students move up to different levels, AP students will have a lot more homework a night, more of an every night basis kind of thing.
Did you feel like the level of homework that you had at the middle school prepared you for the level of homework that you had at Pinkerton?
I felt that I had more homework in middle school than I did my freshman year in high school.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Who'd like to go next?
I just want to also say, I believe it was at the Pinkerton sending dinner where we were at, I can't remember who was there with me. I think another board member was there. The teachers stood up and they did a co-teaching presentation, and they did touch base on their homework and how they've changed their practices. So I don't know if any of your AP classes have gone to a syllabus to mimic college, but that's what the teachers were talking about with the advanced level classes. They've been using more of a college format for assigning the homework.
Jim, do you have any questions on the report or comments?
So if homework is not required, whether it's 3rd to 8th grade, will some students not get any homework because the teacher feels that they may need it, and then some students will get homework and some won't on the same night? And could that happen often for the students that don't need it? They might not get any, and then the other kids are going to be getting it, and so you'll have that comparison going on between the students. You got homework, I'm not getting homework.
We're picturing, for example, in a science class, if homework is assigned, everyone in that class would have a homework assignment, but it would be differentiated according to what that student needs to focus on in science. So it's not like I have some science homework, you don't have science homework. We'll all have science homework, but it'll be personalized for us.
Okay, so my realm of experience is my K student and my 2nd grade student, so the higher grades I don't know. So what I'm thinking is going to happen is the homework is just going to continue, and everybody's going to say it's meaningful and purposeful, and if they get, like my daughter, she gets words that she has to write in soap or bounce a ball or whatever in 2nd grade. So let's assume that was 3rd grade. That would probably stop because I don't consider it meaningful or purposeful. And they'll just change it. So there will be no change to the homework policy. Everything will just be the same, except teachers will tweak what they're giving to students.
We feel we need to do some professional development with teachers as to what is purposeful, meaningful, or relevant homework. We do have some guidelines in our final report to you. We have had conversations with our principals that when we are meeting with teachers at our administrative team meetings or at the PLC meetings, we need to be talking about what is meaningful, relevant homework. You know, show us what you feel. I'm looking at Marianne, for example, a 2nd grade teacher. At our PLC meeting, 2nd grade would be sharing with us what they consider to be purposeful, meaningful homework. We could be giving them some feedback. But we do recognize that we do have to be doing professional development with teachers on this
Right.
issue of homework.
I guess my question was, so what I'm not trying to make an assumption, but the way I read it is K to 2 won't have formal homework, but 3 to 8 will stay the same, but we'll try to make it more purposeful and meaningful. Do you think that a 3rd grade teacher in the new world will not have homework like they used to? Or they just might change it to make it meaningful and purposeful?
I think there will be some meaningful, purposeful homework. Reading is always meaningful and purposeful.
Oh, I'm not saying it doesn't, but they will continue to have it.
Yes, but it doesn't have to occur nightly. We are cognizant of, vacations, holidays, so we don't assign homework or vacations, holidays. If there's a performance for third grade at, an art performance, a musical performance, so teachers don't assign homework on those particular days.
Can I?
Oh.
Can I?
Okay, go ahead.
Is that okay?
Mhm.
All right. So the biggest discovery in doing all of this was that the policy and the procedure weren't really in line with one another. So a lot of this was trying to get, to make sure that we got the right answer. Now, there has been a huge mindset shift lately in the whole idea of homework, where, you've read about some school districts that have gone with a no homework policy and banned homework completely. And of course, you see that this is a controversial move, where there are some parents that get very upset about that, and they actually want their children to have more homework. So I have, through both Facebook and in person and with the Hawk Forum last year, I've been communicating with parents in our community to try to get a feel of what it is that our community is looking for as far as, the homework. And we certainly do have some parents that would be in favor of a no homework policy. However, we also have parents that are looking for additional homework. Now, yeah, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Some of these students that may be doing homework maybe already have mastered these skills, and this is nothing more than an annoyance, and why shouldn't they be able to go out and play instead of just doing the same rote memorization that we've always given them to? Because, as we know, according to Albert Einstein, play is the highest form of research. However, there are some students that could benefit from additional work. This is more or less just a broad-based attempt to try to address the mindset shift and come up with some ideas. Now, I think putting into practice meaningful homework would certainly alleviate some of the issues, and also the recommendation for the 3rd to 5th grade is to decrease the amount of homework. I mean, 3rd grade would still be the 30 minutes, but what we had been allowing before was up to 50 minutes. So, as far as all of your questions about what is going to happen, well, really, the answer is we're not exactly sure. This is forging a new path. So, I mean, I do trust that, our teachers and our professionals will be able to take a new look at homework and see what it is that would benefit our children the most and put that into practice. And yeah, I mean, if it's a mistake, well, we tried something new. But I think that we got to try something. And I think this is worth a try.
Okay, I have some comments. You guys done?
I have one. So on the policy where it says kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade occasional assignment, and parents and students are expected to read.
That's the procedure, and that was written in 2012. Like I said, the procedure and the policy were out of whack. The policy, the last time we did it was 2015. This procedure was done in 2012. So all of this is outdated, and the committee is recommending that we update the policy and procedure.
Right. Okay, so it's not.
Yeah.
Okay, I have an overall concern with this, and then I have some specific questions. Number one, this report shows how to make homework better by making it meaningful, engaging, relevant, rather than actually showing whether or not there's any evidence that homework is effective. One concern I have is you went back 5 years, and that's fine. Most recent things, they say go back only 5 years. However, one of the renowned experts is Harris Cooper, who started in 1984. And I believe that the homework policy or procedure that we have in place now with the times, the 10 minutes going up each, was his. because back in '84, was the most predominant thought. However, in 2006, he came out with a statement, and just so people know who he is if they don't know, Dr. Harris Cooper has studied homework for more than 25 years and is widely recognized as the nation's leading expert on the topic. He is a professor of psychology and neuroscience at Duke University. And for 6 years, he was an elected member of the Board of Education in Columbia, Missouri, a school district serving more than 16,000 students. And in 2006, his latest statement, after having done another 22 years of studies, says that there is absolutely no evidence of any academic benefit from assigning homework in elementary or middle school. For younger students, in fact, there isn't even a correlation between whether children do homework or how much they do, and any meaningful measure of achievement. At the high school level, the correlation is weak and tends to disappear when more sophisticated statistical measures are applied. Meanwhile, no study has ever substantiated the belief that homework builds character or teaches good study habits. And then going to what you gave us.
Or bibliography.
Yeah, your summary of research. The last paragraph on the first page indicated that the completion of relevant, meaningful, engaging, extending learning activities can positively impact students' performance. What performance? How are you basing performance? Is that just test grades, standardized tests, in-class work?
All of the above. All of the above.
Okay.
As evidenced in the research we looked at.
Also, you go on to say that homework helps in developing personal responsibility. How does it do that?
Personal responsibility and the whole time management piece that, I gave the example that learning to allocate your time between your family activities, your sports. I'm responsible if I don't understand an assignment that I need to talk to my teacher or use I'm thinking in math, we have all sorts of online resources available to students. So if they don't understand a math procedure, they can go on to the Envisions or Big Ideas math site and get some tutorial help on maybe a math procedure that they don't understand.
Could I suggest, though, that the responsibility is taught in the classroom with consequences, logical consequences, addressing learners, different learners developmentally, appropriate ways, establishing positive student relationships, listening to each other, productive learning climate. I don't think homework is a cause of responsibility, nor is time management. Homework becomes just one more thing that the child has to manage. It's one more thing on his plate. Homework is not the cause of time management skills. It's just one more thing that has to be managed.
But I think in life, we all have to learn how to manage our time. My time to exercise, my time to do my schoolwork at night, my time to allocate to a course I may be taking, time with my husband. We all need to learn to allocate the time that
And then you
our
have to
24
also
hours.
then learn to allocate how to do your homework.
Yes,
Homework doesn't teach you time management.
We think it does teach time management, that if an assignment is due on Friday and I know I have scouts on Thursday night and soccer on Wednesday night, that, okay, when in my week am I going to schedule some time to do my homework?
That's how to prioritize. Homework doesn't teach you how to prioritize.
We had 17 sources of research, I believe, between all of us out of the 12 people that we compiled, and there were several different pieces of research that said that. So that was coming from 17 different pieces of research.
No, I read all those 17 pieces. All 17 pieces in there did not say that time management is caused by homework.
I'm not saying all of them did, but when we went through and we listed the advantages and the disadvantages, there were several sites or pieces that listed that as an advantage. So that was why that ended up on our spreadsheet.
But I don't think that those were, I actually looked at all of them. Those weren't evidence-based. A lot of those were opinion polls, parents. There was an educator in science, a science teacher who thought it was. And in your actual report that you gave to the board, you only cite one source, Bringing Homework into Focus by Eileen Depka. The other ones are part of your bibliography, but that is the only one source that you cite.
For the meaningful, the definition of meaningful, is that what you're referring to? Yes, that we were using her guidelines for what is relevant, meaningful, purposeful homework. But in our research, we did look both at qualitative and quantitative research. You know, and I'm also thinking of kids who are in Scouts. If you're working on an Eagle Scout project, you know you have, if you were, for your project, you have to budget your time to get that project completed. So that, I mean, that's part of time management too. Your Scout projects teach you time management skills.
No, they don't. They teach you how to do whatever it is you're doing for your Scout project. Time management is something that is learned in other ways and by prioritizing. It becomes one more thing to prioritize. Homework does not help you prioritize. It's just one more thing. You've got to figure out when to get it in.
We all have to prioritize everything in our lives.
But that's done in the classroom. A good teacher, and we have many here, do that. They have lists, things for kids. Must do, have to do, don't have to do, can wait. That's prioritizing. Homework doesn't teach you that.
I think what I'm hearing from both of you is that time management skills are important, and there are more ways to learn time management skills than just homework. Homework is not the sole provider of time management skills. I think we can agree on those things.
Okay.
I also tend to agree, especially with the 6th to 8th grade level, that it does help. I feel like at that age, my microphone's off, sorry. Yeah, mine's not working, sorry. I do think it helps at those ages. And this comes maybe more from a parent perspective, but I'm trying to look at all of this as well. I do feel like in 3rd to 5th grade, you don't necessarily have a child who says, okay, I have soccer practice this night, I have this. To be real, like the parent is telling them, these are the things that you have. Oh, you have this tonight, you have that tomorrow night. So I do think it helps them prioritize what they need to get done at the 6th to 8th grade level. I don't know at the 3rd to 5th grade. I think you have much more of the family is figuring out, or the parent, or aunt and uncles, or whoever, are the ones really telling them when they need to get things done.
And hopefully that's happening out loud so that the child can understand the thought process and learn those skills.
Which is helping them, you know, they're seeing it from the adults in their lives as well.
And Caitlin, going back, if you remember when we discussed this over a year ago, even in our workshop, we were concerned with grades K through 6.
Mm-hmm.
That was what we kept saying, K through 6, not 7 and 8. And the other thing, some of these things creates connections with students' families. Homework creates a connection.
I'm thinking of parents and students who are reading together. I mean, I'm thinking back to when I read with my kids in 3rd through 7th grade. We would read the same book and we would have discussions about the book that we were reading together.
Can't they do that
creates a
without
wonderful
homework?
connection between.
Can't families do that without assigned homework?
Some families may. Not all families.
My children have been going through this school, so I have a son who's in 1st grade, I have a daughter who's in 6th, and they've had several projects that we've done sort of as a family, small things, collecting things through the house that they could have it for show and tell, having pictures of the family that they put up, things like that, that we, you know, help them with and reminisce on times. And I think that those were really great projects and beneficial for the kids that they could then share about their family with their classmates. And those are just some examples that I'm thinking of off the top of my head.
I just don't think homework is a cause for bringing families together. And it's not that I don't think it, it's that I don't think it's been proven anywhere that homework causes bringing families together. Okay, committee's recommendations down at the bottom. Personalized for the developmental level, academic needs, and learning styles of students. I'm concerned about this because it's students. You're going to personalize homework for every kid? I don't understand how you're going to do that in the real world. Every kid's going to be, instead of on an IEP, they're going to be on an IHP, an individual homework plan.
Well, generally, there would be groups of students in a classroom who would benefit from the same type of a homework assignment. So I'm seeing maybe three, I'm looking at you, Mary Ann, maybe three, maybe 4 different types of homework assignments within an academic area, depending on the needs of the students in the room. And I'm just picturing, again, small groups of students being given the same type of an assignment.
I can give you an example for my son. My son struggles with reading more than my daughter did. I'm a chemistry teacher. I don't have the skills to know where to help him with his words, but he comes home with words that are highlighted or suggested that we practice. Things like that, that I would not know how to help him, and that is personalized. So that's an example.
Okay, but that's not for every child. I mean, that's almost like extra help. You don't have to assign homework across the board because there are certain children who are going to need extra help in a subject matter at certain times. That's a conversation between the parent and the teacher that says, my kid needs help in math, or my kid needs help in reading. I also don't see homework as being a cause to effectively accomplish helping that kid in reading. If they're having difficulty in school, they're going to have difficulty when they go home, unless they're getting extra help in another area. You can't just send them home with more of the same. Also, I have a question. What made you do the break between K and 2? All of a sudden, 3rd grade, we have homework. I want to know how you decided that homework was now important in 3 to 5, where it wasn't in K through 2.
I believe what it was 3rd grade is where there was more take-home type projects that were being assigned that I think the teachers were concerned about.
And students in 3rd grade are able to do more independent work at home. Versus in K through 2, they really need a lot of adult assistance with reviewing their sight words, their math facts, spelling words, helping them get on to extra math online or reflex math, Lexia reading.
And I believe the 30 minutes also included, that was time spent reading. So that up to 30 minutes also included their reading time.
And yet that was another big concern too, was the reading. What does the message say if there's no formal homework assigned? And just so you have the conversation behind that, I think that the schools should definitely still advocate for reading at home. I just don't think that they have to color in circles or whatever to show that they've done that reading. I just think that we can trust families to read with their kids. We let them know that it's beneficial for them. It's a good thing, and I think that they will do it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think families that are going to read with their children. It doesn't have to be a homework assignment. It doesn't have to be logged in that I read chapter 1 tonight or I read chapter 2 tonight. Recommended next steps: educate staff on meaningful and purposeful homework. I just have to ask, so if we're educating our staff on that now, what have they been giving our kids up to now? It hasn't been meaningful and purposeful.
There's been some busy work in there.
Yes, some.
And I don't think it was intentional so much as it, like I said, this is a whole mindset shift. So.
And if spelling words are assigned to students, not all students need to be focusing on the same spelling words. If they've already, mastered a set of words with the different spellings for long A, maybe some students would benefit for studying words with a different spelling pattern.
Again, I have to ask, why is that homework? Well, that can be done in class.
Well, there are only so many hours in a day, and we do realize that students can benefit from extended learning opportunities at home, and that's what we're recommending.
Well,
Meaningful, purposeful, extended learning opportunities at home.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
During all of the meetings and discussions, was there any discussion about potentially making homework optional on the student side or the family side where, okay, the teacher lays out this is the extended learning opportunities, I think that's a good term, for the week, and then, the parents and students decide if it needs to be done. I'm just, where it's not graded, which I agree with and everything, if my child comes home and okay, she blows through her spelling list and can tell me everything in 3 minutes, was there any discussion about that, about making it a little more family-based on deciding whether it's needed?
We did have that discussion, and with the parents on the committee, they're looking for guidelines from us.
Right, but there would still, I'm saying potentially there's still guidelines, you're still having the opportunity for it, but it's not, I'm having a little bit of trouble with this. It's not required, it's not going to be graded, but they're still going to have to do it.
And they're going to get given feedback.
Okay, so what can we talk about that a little bit? Like, for feedback, if they have a spelling list, if that's part of their homework, is the feedback when they take the test at the end of the week, or is I want to be more educated. I wasn't sitting on the committee. I don't know.
Well, let's jump to middle school. Thinking feedback. I'm thinking Katie Wolf and her social studies projects in 8th grade, the science projects in 8th grade, making sure kids are getting feedback on these assignments that they're completed.
Yeah, no, and from my experience, it seems like, especially with projects, that does happen. I mean, every project that any child of mine has ever done, I always see comments from the teachers, this was great, work on this a little bit more the next time. It's not so much the projects, especially the longer term ones, it's more, I think I'm having a little trouble grasping what we're going to be looking at 3 to 5 as meaningful and what kind of feedback they're going to get.
Well, I'm thinking, and I'm kind of going off the cuff here a little bit, but like in 4th grade, I seem to remember that there was a certain amount of reading, and then there was supposed to be some sentences where the child was supposed to make connections with the book that they were reading. So, I mean, if the feedback, perhaps even with the connections that they're making, maybe on sentence structure or that sort of thing, that could be considered feedback. Or also if there's like math problems that they're doing, and they're getting like a certain type of equation wrong, then, they would get that feedback that, this is the mistake you keep making, do it this way or whatever. Feedback. But as far as like, when I'm thinking about my 3rd grader, I don't know. But that's not necessarily, what has been is not necessarily what's going to continue. So, I mean,
Right.
It may be that it would be, what makes an assignment meaningful is that it's something that would provide some feedback.
Or if a student's doing the online extra math, reflex math, Lexia programs, the teacher's able to see what the child accomplished at home and can give the child feedback. Oh, I see you're still struggling for this particular math skill. Let's work on this. Or, wow, congratulations, you've mastered this. So I see that as a form of feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Jason.
So I think this is a good discussion. And to Chairman Yusenka's point, this is a discussion that's not just happening at this district. I had the chance, and I'll talk more about it later, but I had the chance to go to the National School Boards Conference. I made it a point to talk to a number of school districts that are wrestling with this right now because I knew we were as well. In fact, I had a lengthy discussion with Chairman Barnes, who's the chair of the Merrimack. School District. Mm-hmm. And you may be aware or not, but Merrimack eliminated homework. Their approach, actually similar to what you were talking about, Caitlin, their approach was to eliminate homework all the way up through high school as a graded component. In other words, it could still be assigned, but it wouldn't factor into the students' grades, including at the high school level. It no longer factors into students' grades. Now, one of the consequences, whether intended or not, one of the consequences of that that if we were to go down that path, and granted, we're only talking about it through the 8th grade and not at the high school level, is that you have, the potential you have is that some students, and I think we all know, some students perform better on tests than other students. And for students who maybe don't perform quite as well on tests, homework has the potential to act as a buffer for that because they get to spend as much time as they need to on homework, and if it's graded and factored into their overall grade, that acts as a hedge of, hey, I'm not a very good test taker, and that allows them to keep grades maybe a little higher than they would be if you say homework is no longer counted and they no longer have that buffer. That what you may see with some students is that their overall grade goes down. Okay, that's just one piece, and just one thing to think about. Another piece to think about, and I had this discussion again with a couple of other school districts that kind of discuss this, is if we shift to an unstructured sort of model where homework is not a graded component, but teachers are basically evaluating a student, looking at their student's performance and saying, okay, I think the student would benefit from extra work in, maybe it's reading, okay? We have the advantage, I've always thought we have the advantage in Hampstead that we have highly engaged parents and guardians. It's pretty clear that parents, if they get the feedback from the teacher that says, look, your son is a little weak in this area, spending some time reading on a regular basis is going to really help him, okay? I think we can feel pretty confident parents are going to do that. They're looking for that kind of feedback.
That's extra help.
Yes.
It's extra help.
Yes.
It's not just homework.
Well, that's why I say
Yeah.
not necessarily, even in an unstructured environment where it's not graded, it's just that, hey, the student's going to benefit from this extra work.
Got it.
So that's, I think another thing to consider. Some of the districts that are struggling with this is where they have low home engagement. So they have to have a structured homework model, because otherwise students would just go home and there wouldn't be anything. We don't, I think, suffer from that. I think if you tell parents that the student's going to benefit from certain things, they're going to do it. So it's just a matter of how we sort of proceed. I would ask, it's up to the board, but I know Dr. Metzler's here, and I'm sure he has probably some insight into this as well. But it's up to the board. So
I just want to follow up with what you said with Merrimack, though, and that really wasn't a homework issue. That became a grading issue,
right?
Because there was a gap. So they needed to reassess their grading system to account for that 10% maybe that wasn't homework, because if you do your homework at home, everybody knows, you can Google it, you can have mom and dad help you with it, you can open up the book and get the answer. So most of your homework going forward is going to be 100, and that helps bring up your grade. So when the kids didn't have that, some of them saw their grades going down, and they blamed it on homework. But it's not that homework was actually causing them to get better grades. It was the grading system numerically that brought their lower grades up. So that's not homework. And in Merrimack, actually, the chairman of the school board, Shannon Barnes, said, they're looking at the big picture, and they think this is where we're headed without homework. And before we ask Dr. Metzler, you want Dr. Metzler to speak? I just want to say, and I hope I'm speaking for the board on this, this board has always been, or tried to at least make decisions in every area based on current evidence, research. It's never been, I want, I think, I like, Caitlin thinks is good for her kids. We try to take that out of the picture and do what's best for all the kids in the district based on the research in front of us. I was telling Dr. Wilson, I'm a product of homework. I did my homework religiously as a child. I made sure that my kids, who are your ages, did their homework. They came home, they did their homework, had their snack, and then they did their piano lessons or whatever else they had. Because that's what we knew. That's all that we knew then. But now that we're being exposed to other evidence, other material that's coming at us, to have that evidence about homework, that homework doesn't cause all these things to happen, I would think it's irresponsible of the school board not to take that into consideration and to just go along the way we have for the last 30 years just because it's convenient. People don't like change. I get that. And as much as I respect everyone in town and I respect parents, you can't go around and take a parent poll. You know, an example of that is the trailers sitting out back. We're talking about moving them. I can't tell you the number of parents who said, we don't need to bring the kids in. My kid likes it out there. It's air conditioned. They love it in June, and they're separate from the rest of the school. They feel like the big kids. They really like it out there. But this board had information concerning security and safety issues, and we knew that as a board, we had to do what was right moving forward for the students. I see this as being very similar. We have evidence now to the contrary for what we've been doing in the past, and I think it behooves us to make a decision that moves this district forward. And I just want people to know that's where it's coming from some of us. This isn't, oh, she wants it, they want it, he wants it. We've looked at so much, independently looked at so much research that just says continuing down this path just really isn't in the best interest of our children or our families in this town.
And that's why our recommendation is that assigning homework is not required. It's not. And when it is assigned, it needs to be meaningful, purposeful, relevant. And we need to use that criteria in developing our homework assignments.
There is a new teaching method. I don't know if you've heard of the flipped classroom, where the student is introduced to, have you done this in any of your classes at Pinkerton? You're introduced to the material before the teacher teaches it?
Yeah, before every unit, we have the enduring understandings and what will be taught in that unit, and we get the competency for it, and then they teach it.
So we have some 8th grade teachers that are kind of experimenting with this at this point in time too, so that's why you know, there was a concern that if they wanted to continue with the flipped classroom, then we have to at least allow for homework to be assigned.
So for example, in a social studies class, students may be assigned an article to read that night, and then they would come prepared for discussion the following day, and for maybe possibly a debate on a certain subject, topic.
It's just I can't keep hearing meaningful homework. I don't know what that means. I don't think it's been clearly explained, and I don't know what meaningful homework is going to mean to 90 different teachers in this district as applied to all the students. So I have a problem with that. Dr. Metzler, do you have anything you'd like to offer? You want to chime in on this discussion?
Don't you go too far. This is yours. This is yours. Fine. Well, good evening. You know, the irony is not lost on me. You know, Madam Chair makes some very good points because you did your homework, right? You researched this. We've had lengthy discussions about this, and I've had discussions with all of you. I think the important thing here, and Kathleen brings up a good point. You have effectively changed the mindset in Hempstead. And there's a culture shift here, and I'm not quite sure that we need to shock the system completely at this time. I can guarantee you that it will look different. It's not going to look the same. You're not going to get, for lack of a better term, you're not going to get gamed by this, and it's not going to look exactly the same next year and go, wow, they're all just doing it, and they're calling it meaningful and relevant. And so it will be different, and I would suggest that you, whatever you decide to do, is that you look at this a year from now, and if it doesn't look and feel a little bit different, and if it, you know, if that, I know with the research, and the research can prove or disprove and that sort of thing. If it doesn't look and feel different, or it isn't what Hampstead wants, then we should revisit it again. But I think this is a big shift. I don't know if you agree with me. I do think it's a shift. It's not a shift all the way from the left to the far right or right to the far left, but it is a shift. Mm-hmm. And so, what do we have to do for all of those teachers? How do we need to train teachers so that one student isn't getting, you know, a ton of work, and the other, you know, how is it individualized? How is it personalized learning? That's the professional development that will have to take place.
If
right?
you eliminate the homework, there will be no training. It'll be very easy.
I understand, but we still need to personalize learning, whether there's homework or not homework.
But this is, it's personalized learning to homework, you know, respectfully.
No,
That's what we're discussing now, homework, not personalized learning in general.
Oh, I agree, but it's one of those things like, for instance, modifications in the classroom for special needs students. If you get really good at making modifications for special needs students, you learn how to make modifications for all students, not just special needs students. So if we get really good at personalized learning for homework, personalized learning during the day will get better. Or vice versa, So I'm just suggesting, I think you've effectively changed the mindset. I think the work that's been done has already started to make some of those changes. So I encourage you not to shock the system too much all at once. I understand what Merrimack did, and that's good for them. Hampstead's not broken. It's not broken. Sophie and other students at Pinkerton, you do an excellent job. This board does an excellent job supporting our instructional staff. Our instructional staff does a great job supporting our students. But I think you'll see it. I think it will look and feel a lot different, what homework as we know it today, as we move into next year. With some of these recommendations, sure, they can be modified or not, whatever the pleasure of the board is. We're going to execute whatever the pleasure of the board is. But I only caution you to not shock the system too much all at once, because we don't know what the impact of that would be either. There's no study on that either. We will execute the will of the board. We will execute the will of the board, whatever your pleasure is. I appreciate how much time you spent on this. I know that you've all done a lot of work. That's not necessarily a school board member's job to do that much research. So we appreciate that. You come to the table with knowledge, and we respect your opinion, and we certainly respect what you want for this town. So that being said, I appreciate the opportunity just to say a couple of words, but it's an interesting conversation, and I know that's probably where we're headed, in that direction. I don't know if it's all the way in that direction, I guess is my point. So we have changed the mindset. We will execute your will. And I'm hoping that at the end of the day, we come up with what's best for the town and the people that live here. So, all right, so thank you. Oh, for me?
I don't know, it might be
go
for all of
ahead.
you. Have you been able to identify resources for how you would do training? Because when I'm sitting looking at the policy, and we've talked about that they don't match up, there's wording in here already about differentiating and individualizing. We said that's not happening in all cases. So do we have resources? And maybe that's jumping the gun, maybe it's...
Well, yeah, the answer is yes, and then you say, well, what are they? Well, I think, we'll have to make sure that the resources that we select meet the needs of the district. I mean, there are tons of resources in this area as far as, how to train teachers. We just need to make sure, we need to be very specific about our strategic plan in terms of how to implement whatever you decide to direct us to do. So, that, I know your concerns, your concerns about how do you give 25 different lessons. I mean, students are typically can be grouped by strengths and weaknesses within a class. Homework can be enrichment, homework can also be extra help, and somewhere in between. So I'm not as concerned about what a classroom teacher, having been one at one time, and understanding, okay, this is what we need to do. There were times when we gave, 25 different homework assignments, and this was a while ago. I'm not suggesting we do that every night, but we're not suggesting we're requiring homework every night. And to Mr. Sweeney's point, I'm as concerned with, I don't want, luck of the draw, like, oh, you got Mrs. Parnell, she gives homework every night, but, Mr. Cipriano doesn't. We need some consistency, and it needs to fit with what we want in Hampstead. And I don't see homework assigned listening to the conversation, the feel I got from this, I don't see homework assigned every night. It felt more like extended learning opportunities. I think, teachers were going to identify those activities that they felt like kids needed to do beyond the normal school hours. And it will look and feel a lot different next year than it does now. Now, I'm telling you that, and you're saying, show me. Well, we have some work to do, that's for sure. We're not quite sure what the work is yet, because you need to, you're kind of wrapping your heads around, and you're going to give us a directive one way or the other as to what to do. And Karen's going to say, I'll make it easy. Let's just get rid of homework. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, I've already said that. But I have a question for anybody who wants to answer it. Seriously, what do you think is going to happen if you eliminate homework?
People won't learn. Nobody will get into college. Everybody
No,
will be
people
miserable.
learn. That's why they go to school for 6.5 hours a day.
Yeah, I think, and what would happen if we quadrupled it? I don't know. The measurable damage or the measurable gains, and you're looking for that evidence. I'm here to tell you, we don't know. I can tell you, though, some of the things that were just kind of briefly touched on, I enjoy, and we don't make this personal, but, and I know other parents do, sometimes you come home tired and you have to engage with your children, and this is what you should do as a good parent, I get it, with reading with your children or helping them with their math or doing those sorts of things. Far more traditional, but I think some of those things do help, and for lack of a better word, kind of force those interactions that should take place more naturally, right? I think, and so it becomes ritualistic, and it becomes more about helping them learn. And I don't know, I think it gives parents an opportunity to be more involved in the learning. Now, they can be as involved, and I don't disagree with you. You can be as involved as you want to be, and you can do as much as you want, and you can do all those sorts of things. But not everybody has the time or the experience to be able to do that, and I think teachers sometimes help parents do that. And so I think, the benefits, benefits versus evidence-based, to answer your question now, what would happen? I don't know. I would like to believe that what we're sending home with our children is helping them to be successful as they move on. So when they get to their freshman year, or when they get to move on, that some of those skills, whether they were, whether it's time management, whatever the skills are, that these were reinforced skills that we did beyond the school day. I'd like to believe that. So, I mean, sports analogies, right? So you go to practice.
Oh, no, they're lost
I know,
on me.
no.
Do something else.
You go home and you shoot free throws, right? You get better at shooting free throws. No, I don't know. You practice what you were taught during the day. And you're right. So is it intrinsically motivated? Do I do it on my own, or am I extrinsically motivated by grades? Because that was Merrimack's issue, right?
Yeah.
So I think there are so many variables that I don't think this is an absolute easy as a yes or no thing, or this will happen if. I don't think there's an if this, then that. To answer your question, I don't think so. So I don't think it's as absolute either way. That's why, I think that's why it's a healthy discussion. It's a good discussion to have. And certainly we'll do whatever you want. I don't know if you had any more questions that you wanted me to kind of answer, or
What was your sports analogy going to be? Well, just dribbling?
Well,
you said it.
the
Okay,
sports
never mind.
analogy is like
You got that, though, right? You get that one.
You have a team practice. You have a team practice, and then you go home and you practice on your individual skills. So.
And then, devil's advocate, imperfect practice makes for imperfect playing as well. But yeah, I mean, I think it was. Look how long this presentation has lasted. I mean, there was a lot of discussion that happened in this committee, and a lot of different viewpoints that were taken into consideration. I really do think that this is kind of the middle of the road. Let's put our best foot forward. It opens the line of communications between the teachers and the students that should be happening anyhow. And I'm sure that they already are with it. Your child needs extra help with this, and your child needs extra help with that. But instead of just, the blanket class homework, I think that this is worth a chance. I think we should at least try it out.
See, I have different concerns after looking at this. I think it's going to be a long time to get everybody on board with this, and to get the resources they need. To educate staff on meaningful, purposeful homework. I just think it's going to be. I think it's going to be chaos, if you want to know the truth.
Well, I understand why you may feel that way. I think is the fairest way for me to say that. I would say something similar to blizzard bags, which I know we see as schoolwork, not homework. Those have evolved quite a bit. What we started with is not where we are now. I mean, they are much better. So I think it will take a little bit of time, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be chaos. I think this has gotten the kind of attention that in the classrooms and in our schools, as well as at the board level, that I think everybody knows that we're very serious about this. This is not that it will have to look different. It's going to be different, and we'll define different.
But there's still no opt-out here for parents who definitely do not want their children to have homework. There is no opt-out in this plan.
Do you think you think we have a critical mass of parents that do not want homework at all?
I think we have a lot of them, yes. I think we have a lot of them that are following all the new movements and the new culture here and abroad. I see all the time people talking about education in Finland and Japan that we want to model our students after because they're such high performers.
What's their-
80% of that country has a no homework policy.
What's their school day and school year look like?
They're longer.
It's about
But
time.
homework shouldn't be,
think
I
their
don't think
fourth grade-
homework
their fourth
shouldn't
grade test
be
determines the rest of their life.
shouldn't be a substitute for classwork.
I don't believe it's a substitute. I've never believed that. I believe it reinforces what was previously taught during the day if it's done correctly, but, hey, as a parent, we've had things sent home, and maybe not here, maybe it was a different district. It was a concept that was not taught, and we had to teach it at home, because it hadn't been taught yet. That doesn't feel so great after a busy day when your kid can't do something that was sent home, your child, rather.
Or for your kid, who spent 6.5 hours and now has to come home and do more work. When does the day end?
Well, I mean, it's a good, I think this is a proactive board. I think you're moving in a direction. I don't think we need to shock the system completely and go from one extreme to the other. That's just my opinion. And we've had that conversation many times.
I think there is good stuff in here. My biggest issue right now is when I'm looking at the policy and the procedure now, I don't feel like there's actually a huge difference. A lot of the words we're using in these recommendations are already here, and we've acknowledged they're not happening. I want to believe you that they're going to happen, but my concern is if we're saying, okay, we're going to adopt this. The biggest change I see is K through 2, that we're eliminating formal homework. When I'm really looking at these, I don't see that much of a difference with what is
There isn't.
put in here
Well-
in our current policy and procedure.
You're going to rewrite the policy and rewrite a procedure that might look a little different than the report that's in front of you.
Right, but I mean, we're still using differentiating individual plans or individual assignments when needed. I mean, third grade in the current policy says assignments will not exceed 60 minutes a week, 15 minutes per night. In addition, students are expected to read daily for 15 minutes. So then we say, for the recommendation, we're not going to exceed 30 minutes a day. This actually kind of works out to be about the same, if not a little bit more technically, for third grade.
It is.
I'm just looking at what's here and with what currently is in place.
I have a daughter in the 6th grade. I don't remember ever her only having 30 minutes, ever.
In third grade?
Oh, yeah. Ever.
Okay.
Not one night. It was a lot more than that. It was a lot more, and she doesn't love homework. So she's killed me sitting up here. I mean, I'm just telling you. That's the reality. I'm telling you, we need to implement what we're saying in terms of a policy and procedure as presented or less, not required, optional. And we need to manage our staff through our building principals to make this look and feel how you want it to look and feel. I'm not going to get caught up on the semantics, in terms of, because 30 minutes can mean a lot to different things to different people.
Yes, absolutely. So what I'm trying to point out, my concern is that it's not that different from what we currently have. And if we're talking about the research that has been looked at.
Well, I don't want to argue the point, but I just ask, is what we're presenting different than what we're doing?
I think it is.
I know it is. I've lived it.
I'm just looking at this.
I know, I'm not getting caught up on the semantics. I'm just saying what we currently do.
But I understand you don't want to get caught up in semantics, but at the same time, if we've laid out in this policy that we currently have, some of the same thing we're saying, and it's not happening, as it stands, then how do we know it's going to happen if we go with these recommendations, which are pretty similar?
Because I would say it needs to be monitored and managed more closely so that it looks and feels exactly how it is being presented to you, as opposed to.
Can I correct one thing? I'm so sorry for interrupting, but the third grade homework, it says assignments will not exceed 60 minutes per week, which is 15 minutes per night. In addition, students are expected to read daily for 15 minutes. So the third grade was already a half an hour every single day.
Right, so that's no change.
Do you remember third grade?
I'm in third grade right now.
Okay.
So as far as that, what it was, this, like I said, this is really more about a mindset shift, and this isn't getting a spotlight right now. So yeah, if we rewrite the policy and we rewrite the procedure and we make sure that it's actually implemented and carried out and we monitor it, and we're really good at follow-up on this board, I think that we can make some positive changes.
We're not signing a 20-year contract.
No. Well, what do we do?
Like you were saying.
I'm recommending.
And it's a first step.
if we accept these recommendations, what really
I'm
happens
not- I'm
anyhow?
just-
Do we then go off to policy and then Karen and I
the same thing
talk for
here.
another
That's
hour
my
about it
issue.
there? I'm not going to that meeting.
It's got to come through policy. Oh, you have one on.
What you said about the blizzard bag, first grade, this is my own experience, the first grade blizzard bag last year was horrible. But the second grade blizzard bag this year totally engaged my daughter. So something happened. The group of teachers in second grade came together to put together a better product. I don't know what it was, but it was better for me. It was presented better, it had more things in it. So if we do homework like that, and not specifically saying against the second grade blizzard bag this year, but it is engaging, it is meaningful, because if it was like the first grade blizzard bag last year, I didn't like the
That's
product.
gotten progressively better over the five years that we've been doing them.
Right.
So, I mean, you're on the back end of it, and there's been some big changes, right? But there's been significant changes over the 5 years. Because we really didn't know, what's appropriate for a whole day's worth of work at home. And it's different for everybody. It's kind of like, some's too easy, some's too hard, and you're constantly working with parents to try to get it just right, to get it just right. So I'm glad to hear that, but I think that's what we need to do with what we send home, whether we call them extended learning opportunities or whether we call it homework or whatever we assign for students to do on their own time. That's what we need to do with it. Right?
Okay, thank you. Dr. Wilson, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just want to add to the conversation. This has been a very meaningful conversation that's important to any board. And so, I'm glad that we've been part of it. Our teachers have not had this meaningful conversation. We've not done this formally with our teachers. The committee, who has been represented by some teachers in our community, have had some of that conversation and enlightenment. And I think that's up to us because we're trying to figure out what's our next step. Whatever the board decides, we are going to implement with teachers, which means we have to have this dialogue with teachers. We've not had the opportunity. We've had some side conversations for sure, but not in a way that if we're going to full boat mind shift and mind change in terms of homework, we need to have those conversations with the teachers at PLCs, just like we did with the blizzard bags when they first came on. Do you think that was a popular thing? Not at all. But people went with what our vision was, went with what we were looking for, and every year we reevaluate it and get a little bit better at it. So, whatever the board decides, this was your initial kind of parlay into this world of homework, and I know you've been talking a lot on the side as well. So, give us direction in terms of where we need to go. From what you've heard today, I guess.
Okay, well, I think what they're looking for, right, is for the board to take action on their recommendation, which is this.
So I'll motion that we accept the homework committee's recommendation.
As is.
Yeah, that we accept the recommendation. That's my motion.
Okay.
And if you want to have some sort of a clause in the policy where parents, it's written there that parents can opt out. I mean, I think every teacher that I've had for my kids has sent home some kind of a homework expectation thing where, I know as a parent that if I have some sort of an issue, I can contact them and say, we're not going to participate in this homework assignment, if that's the case. But if you want it in writing in the policy, we can certainly talk about that.
Would you be more comfortable, and I know you have a motion on the floor, would you be more comfortable if we also agreed to monitor in a way, like literally collect the data on every room in both schools and present monthly at the board about what's actually been assigned for time and that sort of thing? I actually like that. I know you make it's a lot of work, and I apologize.
I just don't think we want to be in the business of micromanaging I think the board is just set a direction, but we don't need to micromanage, nor should we, individual teachers.
No, I'm not suggesting I report out on individual teachers. I'm just saying, in general, you know, we may do that anyway. We probably should do that anyway. And
We need to
now,
monitor.
now we are going to do it.
Yeah.
So, but if that would make you more comfortable, and I'm perfectly fine. I'm not looking to single people out. I'm just saying, this is what we can tell you is happening, and we know it because, you know, we're actually tracking it. So, just a thought. You know?
Okay. Any other discussion? There's a motion on the floor to accept the recommendation from the Advisory Committee on Homework, to accept it as presented, and there's a second. No other discussion? Are you ready to vote on the motion to accept this? Okay, all in favor? Three, all opposed? 3-2. The recommendation's been accepted.
Thank you for the discussion.
Next, federal funding authorization. Each year, the board must authorize the superintendent, assistant superintendent, business administrator, and assistant business administrator to apply for and receive on behalf of the district federal and state grants funding. Do you have a motion to that effect, please?
So moved?
A second.
Guess that's it. Motion and a second?
Yeah.
All
I
in
motion.
favor? It's unanimous, thank you. Policies, second read. Oops, first read.
First read.
First read. We have 6 policies for first read. IBDC, Internet Log File Retention, CH, Policy Implementation, CHA, Development of Procedures, CHB, Board Review of Procedures, ECE, Traffic and Parking Procedures, and IMGA, Service Animals. Have a motion to accept these on first read?
A second.
All in favor? It's unanimous, they're all moved. Thank you for second
you.
read. Board comments and correspondence. We're going to start with Jason, who's going to give us an update on the NSBA 2018 conference.
I'll try to keep my comments brief out of respect for my fellow members. So I attended the National School Boards Association conference and actually did present at the School Boards Conference on STEAM, very appropriate for tonight, on STEAM integration, some of the projects that we've worked on as a district. Had a very good time both presenting and then talking with other districts around the country as they are dealing with many of the same things that we're dealing with. I mentioned that the homework thing is a hot topic right now in a lot of districts around the country. School funding is another big issue, and I know we're tracking very closely on some bills in our legislature that have the ability to impact school funding. And then talking with the New Hampshire delegation as well. So the New Hampshire School Boards, I'll just end it with this, the New Hampshire School Boards Association has actually asked that, that I look at doing that presentation that I did here in the state for some other school boards in the state, and so we start sharing some of the things that Hampstead's doing with other school districts that are interested in understanding how we have approached STEAM education in our district. So it was a great trip, very positive, made some great connections, got to see a demo of the First Student bus tracking app. Among other things, as I said, I would pop into First Student and see the bus tracking app. I think parents are going to find it very useful. And I'm happy to share with you, even outside this meeting, some other things that I kind of picked up there. But it was a meaningful trip and a great opportunity to present and collaborate with other school boards. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Kathleen?
Well, I got to see our Unified Arts team at the Central School in action via the 3rd grade concert that they did, which was kind of like an American culture presentation. It was really well done, and kudos to all the 3rd graders and their Unified Arts teachers. Oh, and yeah, SB 193, HB 1636.
It got attached to that.
Yeah,
as an
that's,
amendment.
so what they did is they, as you know, they but for the public. They shot down SB 193, it died, and then they went and they attached the original version that has absolutely no caps and no limits and was like the most harmful version where students with special education, their rights are infringed upon, and it's just disastrous. And they attached that to HB 1636. And I don't think that our lawmakers are aware that that's not the way democracy works. So feel free to contact your legislatures and let them know that you don't want to pay for 1636, HB 1636.
Okay, Jim?
I'm all set, thank you.
Caitlin?
I don't have
No,
anything.
I'm all set. Okay, consent agenda. Where'd she go? Okay.
Jason, you have more to talk about from the conference.
Of course I
so
do.
Just fill the space.
No, look, it was really good. Safety and security, another big topic. There are any number, here she comes, any number of some big products that are out there in the marketplace. Dr. Metzler and I did talk to a couple of different organizations, including building, facilities management, Johnson Controls. They have some interesting products with regard to school safety, in addition to building controls. So we had an interesting discussion with them about some school safety type things that I think could be very useful, potentially at the central school at least, and then also at the middle school. So I'm happy to share those in a non-public because they relate to security practices at the schools. But I think there was some very good discussion on that topic as well. So,
Good.
and Dr. Wilson's back, so.
For consent agenda, personnel report, we do have 2 retirements, and I just bring that to your attention. One of them has only worked for us for a year, but she's been in this career for a number of years. So we wish Teresa Mareshka luck in her pursuits as a retired special ed teacher here. And Karen Moran, who has been with us for 12 years in the district at the elementary school. Again, a great teacher who has offered a lot of expertise in the primary education at the central school. So those 2. I have 2 others that I'll talk to you about in non-public. So those are the ones that I think we can accept through the consent agenda. And I also have my report. So I'll just flow into that. BBBCR, which is the school district office resignation, the procedure behind that, Jason, you had asked us to follow up with. And I did follow up and I did make adjustments to it. And then there was a question about whether to add, whether someone had to be a registered voter, so I added that. Okay, so I just wanted you to know that's there.
Okay.
Okay. This week is NEA Teacher Appreciation Week. They stretched a day into a week, which is what we want to do on our birthdays all the time. And it's also Nurses Appreciation Day. So both schools have enjoyed the benefits of having this National Week of recognition. And thank you to the PTSA, who's done a wonderful job in giving and donating lunches and food and candy to some of our teachers. The assistant principal hiring process, we have set up a process in place, and the actual schedule is going to be most of this month in May. We're trying to hurry it along. We got the posting out before vacation. The end date for that is May 12th, so we're waiting for the final applications. And right now, I think there's about 20 in each category for assistant principal, and we've had probably another 15 that are either older or not submitted yet. Some people take their time to work on these, so we wait until the last day possible, and then we pull those submitted, completed applications. So I think we'll have a pretty good pool to look at. The admins, that's going to be the principals, myself, and Nancy Lewisell. We'll go through the initial screening process, and we'll set up times to bring in for a round 1 interview. And we will be involving other folks on the interviews, so we will have Doris involved in that, Nancy Lewisell, myself, the principals, for round 1. round 2, we're going to bring Dr. Dancy in, plus 2 teachers, and we're going to ask more pointed questions that are going to be connected more to the school. We're doing this in a different process because we're doing it with both principals, looking at all of the candidates and then trying to target the questions based on the needs and the strengths of the candidates. Instead of trying to compete all the time, we're doing this together, and we thought this would be a good process. And then by May 31st, we hope to have the finalists going to be interviewed with Dr. Metzler and Madam Chair. So they will have kind of the last look. We're also going to do a writing prompt, and that will be with the finalists. So we'll keep you up to date, but that's where we are. I hope to have the recommendation for you that first meeting in June, if all goes well. Pinkerton, there's a Sending School District meeting on the 15th. I plan to attend. We're going to hear more information about the relationship that Pinkerton is forging with Bushy, I think is the name, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, Academy in Chester, which is the Chinese private school that's been there for a couple of years. In the last 2 years, I think it's just been summers only for middle school aged kids. Now they're looking to bring, they've done some building, they've added a kitchen facility, which I think they needed to do. They're going to bring some high school students. I don't know how many. We're going to get more details when we go to the Ascending Schools District, but I think they're going to forge a relationship with Pinkerton Academy in order to have some of these kids attend. So I will give you more information about that when I get back. We're renovating and moving offices based on a plan that we have in place. Tom Geary has been very involved with that. He will talk to you about summer projects at the beginning of the June meeting. And we're really trying to help alleviate some of the stress on Central School, bringing the kids back from the portable. We're going to be moving the special ed district offices into the middle school. So we are going to be reconverting one of the classrooms there. Title I, every year, you know, we've been doing Title I in a very traditional model here in the district with one teacher. We've been using the Title I dollars to pay for the salary and benefits, and over the years, there's no money for benefits anymore. It's just been a salary, and it's been reduced each time we've looked at the allocations. We've looked at the administrative team has looked at using the dollars differently. We would like to use the Title II dollars for 2 tutors instead of just 1 teacher. So the allocations will pay for the two tutors, and we'll be able to do supplemental math and supplemental reading, which is we want to be able to do both at the elementary school. So we'll still funnel the Title I dollars down to the elementary school and the primary grades where we think it's essential, but we're going to do more supplemental. We'll be able to reach more kids. So that's, and many schools use this model. So that's what we're going to go forth with. And then the last thing is that we submitted a grant to the Department of Ed. We called it the System of Care grant, and really it was a Title IV reallocation of dollars. We were looking at how do we as a district respond to students and families in need, especially those around social and emotional health or situations. So, and the Department of Ed is really pushing some of the resources through their Office of Student Wellness. And they've been talking a lot about this. And I know other schools have been talking a lot about this. So we decided to look at this as an opportunity to solidify our system here in Hampstead and to really look at what are our options, what are our needs here, what are some of the community resources we have, what can a consulting psychologist help us with in terms of really facilitating this system response. So we're going to be developing a system of care, if we get this funded, a system of care plan. And really the money allows for us to pay for some of our counselors and nurses and administrators and teachers. It really allows them to come together after school hours to spend time on really identifying our needs here in the district. And we'll use a consultant if that works and we're able to get the grant. Someone from Ceresc who's highly recommended who's a consulting psychologist, educational psychologist. So we've been speaking with that person as well as the department, and we should know within a week whether or not we got that grant. And I think it was about $20,000. Doris Bucco did a lot of work on that grant. We'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
So
Don't forget to,
Well, you need us to accept the retirements separately, correct?
yes, you can do that
Do
separately.
it all as the,
Yeah,
or
I-
consent, just do it under the
To
consent.
accept the consent agenda and accept with regrets the retirements.
Okay.
That's all for Mrs. Moran? That's all you're going to give?
Is there a second? Motion's on the floor. Is
All
there
right,
a
I'll
second?
second.
All in favor of accepting the consent agenda? Thank you very much. Okay, there will be a non-public. We're going into non-public under RSA 91A:32
Oh, you got that?
C.
You can have it.
I'll make that
Thank you.
motion.
Can I pull the board?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. You don't need to call me. I'll go to the ladies' room now.
Actually, I think we need someone to make the
Jason made the motion.
I made the motion.
I seconded it.
Can I just, for the motion too, I think it's B and C, just to be,
You do?
yeah, just to be, just to cover us.
There's no person, though. We're not hiring a person.
She said she had,
All right. I'm okay with C only.
Okay, B and C. Second.
second. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Thank you, Cable. We will not be coming back. Thank you.